I am zooming in with joy from the land of the Lenape peoples. I invite you all to share land acknowledgements in the chat right now. If you don't know whose land you're on, there's also a native land map in the chat, so you can use it and learn more.
Hi, everyone. I'm also zooming in with joy. I am Erica Lauren Ortiz. I'm the Director of Marketing and Production at TCG, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a Black, with a capital B, woman. I have long Black hair, deep medium brown skin. I have a cranberry shirt, a small to moderate amount of makeup, and a big smile. I'm joining you from my kitchen, which has a metal staircase and an assortment of TCG books, of course, wine on the counter, and it's located in Lenapehoking, the unceded lands of the Lenape peoples, and it's known today as Bergen County, New Jersey. I would like to welcome you all to day 2 of the 2020 TCG Fall Forum, A Just and Thriving Theater Ecology. The event this year takes its name, rather, from TCG's new mission statement, which was forged during our strategic planning process. We've crafted this new mission during a global pandemic, during a movement for racial justice, specifically dismantling white supremacy culture and ending violence against Black and brown bodies.
So, we've been doing the Fall Forum like this for over 22 years now, and today we're going to break from that tradition. Just a quick recap. Yesterday, we did what we've typically done in the past 22 years. We convened leaders and trustees from across the field, and we centered the work around the We See You White American Theater and BIPOC demands. And today and tomorrow, we will center our work around 4 themes: joy, which is happening right now, and I hope you're feeling that in your bellies and your heart; community, accountability, and justice. And more specifically, what do we mean when we say just and thriving? Not just what not just what it means for TCG, but what it means for all of us. In a moment, we'll hear from our joy makers, Jacob Padrón and Erin Washington, who will lead us in a session about joy. And this afternoon, the amazing Jonathan McCrory and Alex Mehta will host us in a session about community. It's also super important for us to recognize and acknowledge that we arrived with this week's format with the help of all of our BIPOC advisory councils and our TCG team, who worked in a model and work to model an accountability process internally, where much of the work, the labor, was handled by our white colleagues. We acknowledge that BIPOC practitioners and staff work doubly hard amidst so much chaos and personal loss and struggle, especially for those of us working in predominantly white institutions, and especially in 2020.
Ooh, 2020. We thought it was particularly important to leave space in this convening for interpretation, for our identities, for intersectionality, for emergent conversation. Realizing that so much uncertainty and precariousness still faces us, our field, and our nation, we understand that everybody is going to approach these themes and these words differently. To honor those differences, I also ask you to review our community agreements, which I believe Josh is dropping now in the chat. As Adrian said, today's session is about joy. And I know for me, when I first heard the words Black girl magic or Black boy joy, I really approached them with a side eye before making them my own. I had been taught in life and in theater to just work hard, stay focused, to be quiet, to be professional, to be polite when others were cutting me off, AKA I'm speaking, and to hold the doors open for me by my predecessors, open for others. So I always had one foot behind me in the gap for any other Black girls, Black boys, Black non-binary folks, others that might want to come behind me. But I realized that in doing so, I never fully entered the room. So to think that Black boys could have joy, that Black girls could have magic, and to not simply be at the table presenting very pleasantly and politely was foreign, but it felt damn good. So today, I call upon joy, I call upon magic, I call upon our theaters to welcome our Black, Indigenous, people of color as we step fully into these rooms and into this week's sessions. The doors are wide open. We don't want to simply stand in the gaps. And together, I think we can be joyous and magical. So with that, it is our pleasure to welcome Erin Washington and Jacob Padrón to the virtual stage.
Oh my goodness, thank
Blessings,
you.
blessings. I'm still living off of the music.
I am too. I'm living for, I just wrote down, Erica, thank you for I call upon joy. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for that. Amazing. I also just in preparation for this session, I lit my gratitude candle that was given to me by David Mendezabal. It's here on my desk, along with a card that my aunt gave me. So I'm thinking about her this afternoon. Hi, Erin.
Hey, Jacob, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. I got me a good walk today. I'm feeling good. How are
Excellent.
you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. So should we do just we should just say briefly who we are, right? And what we're wearing and where we're calling in from, and then we'll go through our more formal introductions that we're going to sort of do a little differently, right? So Erin, do you want to start us off?
I will start. My name is Erin Washington. I am here. I have wonderful locks. I have some red lipstick on. I have black glasses. Sitting in a background with some gray, my mantle ritual space. And I am a Black woman. Very grateful to be here. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, the South. If you're from the South, just give me a holler, a raise your hand. The land of the Muskogee people. Jacob.
Excellent. So I'm Jacob Padrón. I use he, him pronouns. I have brown skin, dark brown eyes. I'm wearing a maroon sweater. I have my my Swatch watch on with a leather band on my left arm. I'm sitting in my room using my new desk. I finally sort of set up my workstation, my workspace. I'm calling in from the ancestral lands of the Quinnipiac, the Pagaset, and the Wappinger people, better known as New Haven, Connecticut, and also really, really grateful to be here with all of you. So Erin and I have put together, hopefully, a plenary that is, really about bringing us together in community, bringing us together in ways that feel actually informal. It feels like when we go to these conferences or that these sessions have to be very sort of polished or, but we want to throw that out. We actually want to model a different way of being together, a different way of leaning into vulnerability and to joy and to conjure a new American theater that actually really centers this as a practice, as a real value. And so, so the way that we're going to start is sharing a little bit more about ourselves that you may not, can you all still hear me? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that you may not get from our bios, right? Usually when you read our bios, it's like our institution affiliations, our title, so on and so forth. So I actually want to take a page from my dear friend, Stephanie Ibarra. We spoke on a panel together. And what we want to share is, other tidbits about who we are, where we come from, with the refrain, I am. And one of the things that we're going to do is lean into vulnerability by actually sharing some pictures. So I'm going to go first. I'm going to share a picture as it relates to sort of where I come from, and me very little. And then Erin's going to share her picture a little bit later in this session. So I'm going to start. And here we go. So this picture. So this is me, circa 1980. This was, I believe, taken in Los Angeles. My mother put me in what I like to refer to as the bumblebee costume. So I'm gonna just try to describe it. I think I'm about 6 months old. It is a shirt that is striped with yellow and black. I'm wearing pants. They look like jean pants. I'm wearing kind of multicolored tennis shoes. I have a huge head, I think, a big forehead and big, I think, eyes. I'm smiling. But just as a way to ground us in vulnerability, right? Vulnerability can also be a thing that helps us feel joy. So I wanted to share this as a way to start and to tell you a little bit more about who I am and where I come from. So I'm going to leave this picture up as I share with you, friends. So I am a third generation Mexicano. I am the son of Fred and Terry Trujillo. I am the product of my ancestors' sacrifices. I am the brother to Josh, Adina, Amia, and I am the tío to 2 nieces and 4 nephews. I am the grandson of Lupe Juarez, who grew up in Riverside, California, and was educated by the nuns at a boarding school in Banning. I'm from Gilroy, California, the garlic capital of the world, and I am allergic to garlic. How's that for irony? I am the beneficiary of my first artistic home, El Teatro Campesino. I am a Gemini. We get a bad rap because of the twins. I am a lover of Janelle Monáe, sparkling water, CrossFit, and the California sunshine. I am the mentee of the late Diane Rodriguez. It's a little bit about me. Erin, what about you, my friend?
That's so beautiful, Jacob. You look so happy. I am from the red clay dirt South. I am the child of Michael and Sandra Washington. I am a waymaker and a path clearer. I am the legacy of African and Native folks. I am heart and soul and peace and joy and lots of fire. I am Saturday night at the club. Anybody else that? Hey, and I am Sunday morning meditation. I am a lover of Black women. I am Toni K. Bombara, Nina Simone, and Barbara Ann Teer. I am that I am.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you know, when Erin and I were preparing for this session, one of the things that we talked about is that it's not just about who we are, but whose we are, right? So thank you for that. What we want to do now is just do a grounding. And so Erin is going to lead us in that grounding as a way for us to center ourselves and center ourselves in this work of joy for this plenary. Erin.
So if everyone can just take the opportunity to turn your camera off, which is going to allow this time for just a short meditation. So what I want for you to do, and if it's you or you and your kids, feel free to share this practice with them. I just invite you to put one of your hands on your heart and one of your hands on your stomach. And I just want you to sit with yourself for a moment, simply feeling your breath coming in and out on its own. So as you are allowing your breath to come in and out on its own, remember, you don't have to control it. It doesn't have to be anything special. It just has to be what it is. Just take this moment. What does your breath feel like coming in and out? The beauty of the breath, it shows us a lot. It shows us on the inhale how sometimes some hard things can come in that could potentially interrupt our joy. But we get the grand opportunity to exhale. The in and the out. Just take a moment with that. And allow this time to just let whatever happened before this moment just kind of waste away. If you hear or seeing things in your head and your mind, just allow that to be present. Don't judge it. Just sit with yourself. And what I want you to do now is put your right hand on a part of your body that you feel needs a little bit more joy. This part of your body is in need. It needs more joy. And what I want you to do on the inhale is speak to yourself, good morning, whatever part of the body this is. And you're going to exhale and say, I'm sending you joy. Inhale, good morning, body part. Exhale, I'm sending you joy. Just sit with a few of those breath cycles. Remember to allow your breath to come and go on its own. You don't have to control it. You can let it be free. Then what I want you to do is put your other hand on another part of your body that you feel like is a joy rock star. This part of your body is holding you down when it comes to joy. Put your hand on that part of the body. Beautiful. And on the inhale, I want you to inhale good morning, good afternoon to that part of the body. And then I want you to exhale, thank you for holding joy. Inhale, good morning, good afternoon. Exhale, thank you for holding joy. And just sit in this moment of the tension in the space between the part of you that needs joy and the part of you that's holding joy. Be present with that. Allow your breath to circle and cycle both of those spaces. Allow your breath to be enough to hold that tension, the beautiful tension that is you. It's beautiful. And with your hand on both of those places, what I want you to do now is still allowing your breath to come and go on its own. I want you to just find yourself in a light rock from side to side. Maybe remembering a moment of embrace from a loved one, a moment of comfort, of safety. And in this rock, holding this space of joy in this space that you want more joy to be in, what I want you to do is just take 30 seconds to speak a word of encouragement that your body needs right now. So maybe you were waiting for somebody else to give it to you. I'm encouraging you to give it to you. Just take that moment. This is beautiful. So I want you to just start to wiggle your fingers. Start to slowly move parts of your body, coming back to this plane, this space and time. And lightly, slowly open your eyes. Remember this moment. And you can come back on screen whenever you're ready. beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blessings. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blessings. Remember this moment, particularly of the sway. You know, you can reenact this for yourself, especially in the midst of utter turmoil, right? The sway, your body remembers a space of comfort inside of it. That's a small tool for you to keep.
Thank you so much, Erin. That was really, I feel very relaxed. Thank you for that. Okay, friends, Erin and I wanted just to share a little bit more about the framework for this session and what we hope to accomplish. So we're going to share some of our own reflections around joy. We also want to acknowledge some of the, we want to place this work in context. So we're going to talk a little bit about things that we want to acknowledge. We'll do some small group breakout session work together, and then we'll come back. But the thing that feels really, I think, important for this session is that we actually want to ground it in practice. What are the actual ways that we can practice centering joy as a real value in our boardrooms, in our rehearsal rooms, in our communities, and certainly across our entire organizations? It is about shifting culture and letting joy be a value that animates our culture. And it is the thing. And in many ways, it can be a kind of true north as we think about how we want to move forward in this moment. When we center joy, we can really conjure the miraculous. And so we want to talk more about that. So in terms of objectives, reflection, we want to spend time reflecting the value of joy, why it's important, how it has the power to transform, to heal, to conjure. 2 is we want to share practices, as I just mentioned. And then 3, we actually want to do some modeling. What are the ways in which we can actually model right now in this Zoom room for each other and with each other, and then take it back to our respective communities and our institutions. So that said, Erin and I also want to acknowledge a couple of key things as we journey together this afternoon for this plenary session. And there are 4 things, and I'm going to just read them. Okay, so the first is we want to acknowledge that there are real power dynamics at play in this Zoom room. And we just need to be mindful of those dynamics. We especially want to lovingly call in our board members who are with us this afternoon. We're so grateful you are here. We know that our board members can be powerful allies, but also real obstacles. And so we need to name that and talk about that and wrestle with that beautiful tension. Let us move beyond our titles and roles. Let us disrupt the status quo and really center each other in this work. That's the hope, is that we will share our humanity in this session. So number 2, we want to acknowledge the harm, past, present, and future, and hope we can make space for healing that actually begins right now in this Zoom room. Healing is not linear. It can ebb and flow, but it requires an acknowledgement. We can't have joy until we acknowledge when harm has been done, and think about the intentional ways that we want to repair, that we want to show up, and how we want to lead with love. Number 3, we want to acknowledge the labor of our Black, Indigenous people of color who have often carried the weight of bringing joy to our field despite the people and the systems that kept them oppressed. We especially want to amplify the voices of Black, Indigenous people and people of color inside predominantly white institutions whose joy and joy-filled practices were often not seen or valued or celebrated. Finally, we want to acknowledge that the world is still very much on fire, right? That there's still so much suffering, with the COVID cases on the rise and creating so much destruction, so much suffering. And of course, the continued demand for racial justice in our communities across the country. So we want to place this work of joy in context, and we felt like it was important to acknowledge some of what's at play right now. Now we're going to just share a little bit about what's bringing joy in our lives and how we think about joy. Erin, would you like to start?
You go for it, Jacob. I'm trying to pull up this picture. It's the tech. All right.
Okay, I will go first. So I wrote down 5 things when I think about joy. The first is that joy is vulnerability. and that to be vulnerable is a superpower, and that it is a powerful choice that we can make to transform our institutions. The second is that it is a value. It is a value and not necessarily just like a feel-good thing. One of the things that my mentor, Bill Roush, used to talk about was when we talk about the work of inclusion, we can't think of it like spinach, like the thing that we have to eat but don't want to eat. It actually has to be a thing that is absolutely sort of nourishing and fortifying, but it has to be a value that we practice day in and day out. Number three, for me, that joy can be the most radical act to our liberation. One of the things that Adrienne Marie Brown talks about is that, you know, the work of centering joy and the work of centering justice can actually be the most pleasurable thing that we do in our lives. Number four, joy, and this is a big one for me, joy allows us to center people and our relationships. So again, to quote Adrienne, critical connection over critical mass, right? How can we be in relationship to each other sort of day in and day out? The other thing that when I think about joy and when I think about leading with joy and centering joy, I think about the thing that I learned when I did the anti-racism and community organizing workshop with the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. And one of the things that the facilitators stress again and again and again throughout the 3 days of the training is that we must move from our mind to our heart to our gut. That in order for this work to really take shape, that the work must live in our full bodies. And I think joy really allows us to do that. And then the fifth thing, and I want to just pull it up, is I think joy allows us to, I think, really anchor our deepest truths in love. And I want to just read something here. So, if we are able to do that, then we can have love for the possibilities, love for the struggle, love for the emergence, love for the people who said no, because they gave us the strength to keep saying yes, love for our community, love for our beautiful Black and brown skin, love for our brokenness, love for ourselves, love for the next generation. And as the ancestors taught us, including the great Diane Rodriguez, there can be no revolution without love and without joy. So that's what's coming up for me when I think about a joy-filled practice. Erin.
That's really beautiful, Jacob. Thank you so much for that. For me, my joy is expressive. My joy is audacious. My joy is mine. My joy is political. It is an intentional expression I offer myself, a ritual of sorts to honor the ancestral journeys that existed before me and now through me. My very existence is an expression of my joy. The courage to stand in the midst of being born in a country filled with complications and misinterpretations. I stand in the center of my joy. My joy is the love I intentionally give to myself. It's the ritual of journaling, of meditation, of eating a plant-based diet, of loving Black women, of planting seeds into the red clay dirt, of making time to dance, to chat with friends, to allow my mind to wander. My joy is sitting in the center of process versus product, being able to decipher when I am performing versus being. My joy is a declaration of my intentionality around healing, acknowledging the wounds that exist and being in deep meditation with them. Fantastic scholar, amazing genius artist, writer, Toni K. Bambara in The Salt Eater says, "Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Just so's you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed, because who knows, healing is no trifling matter, a lot of weight when you're well." I wanted to speak about joy, not just as an expression of elation, but also as an expression of deep healing, of opening the wound that most would leave covered up. For in America, we've been taught that it's better to pretend that things don't exist. It's like Maze's song said in the beginning, joy and pain, sunshine and rain. In order for me to center my joy, I also am uncovering the space I am healing through. My joy is complicated. My joy is mine. And I wanted to share a picture with you all. If the tech works. Fantastic. Let me hear somebody that says that they see this, please. All right. So this is me. I'm in the deep South. I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. My grandfather's in the background. And I chose this picture because I feel like I'm looking at this camera kind of startled, like, what's going on, right? But I was sitting in deep joy. I feel covered by my grandfather. I feel safe at home. But also in my Alabama home, I'm sitting at this age in the complication that existed with my mother. My mother, Sandra Washington, was one of the first Black women and Black people to ever work for Governor George Wallace, who was former governor of the state of Alabama, right, when I was born. So when my mother was pregnant with me, my mother was just beginning to work with Governor George Wallace. I say that my joy sits in deep complication, because I think at times we can think that joy is just like, oh my gosh, I'm having so much fun. And in this picture, I'm safe, right? But there's also the complication of politics. There's the complication of social histories that is happening while at the same time, I am being taken care of. So I just wanted to acknowledge in this moment, this beautiful little Black girl that is now me. She is still inside of me. And I still sit inside of some of those deep, deep complications of my joy. So thank you all for hearing Jacob and I's concepts around joy. What we want to do now is give you all about 8 to 10 minutes to just sit inside of what your joy is. We want to give you some time to journal, to draw, to write, to muse over just a few questions. What is joy for you? And what, if any, practice have you created to help you to form that joy for yourself? So what is joy for you? And what are the practices that you've created for yourself to support your joy? So whatever arises for you during this time, you can journal this, you can write this, you can feel free to turn off your cameras. I think the amazing folks at TCG will be giving us a little light music. Really excavate these questions in the ways that they come up for you. Just take a few minutes.
right. I'm loving that folks are already populating their joy-filled practices in the chat.
And I'm loving all of the dancing. I mean, it's a
Love
lot of
all
just
the
liveness in this room today.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
fantastic.
Absolutely. The revolution will be funded by joy. Yes, excellent. Okay. So what we want to do is actually go into some smaller groups where you can share more about, again, your practices, because we want to really ground this in what are the practices, right, that we can actually take with us and really live this value in our work, day in and day out. So before you go into your smaller groups, Erin and I just wanted to talk through just some group agreements. But one is we want to encourage you when you go into your room in the same way that we sort of modeled a different way of introducing ourselves. Feel free to use that model if you want to, if you want to adopt a different way, but just more about how we actually can sort of reveal and celebrate in our collective humanity. But some things to keep in mind in terms of group agreements, and you can add in when you go into your groups, but these are the 6 that Erin and I came up with. So I'm going to just read them out loud. So listen to understand, not to agree. Silence does not equal consent. Thank you, TCG, for that one. Be in this space, not with your title, but with your humanity. Think of the acronym WAIT. Why am I speaking? Why ain't I speaking? Be mindful of the presence of anti-Blackness. Throw glitter, not shade. I'm going to read that one again. Throw glitter, not shade.
That's my favorite one, Jacob, because that's real.
No, I can't take credit for that. That came up when Longworth hosted an artistic congress and facilitator. I think it was maybe Devin. It wasn't it your facilitator came up with that.
That's a t-shirt, Jacob. That's a t-shirt. Fantastic. So,
okay. And then Erin, will you review what folks are going to chat about in their groups?
Yes. So we're actually going to reflect on the 2 questions that you were already journaling and drawing and writing about. What is joy for you? What is bringing joy to you today? And what is a practice that you are creating to hold your joy? We also want to kind of add into the mix when there might be some complications with joy, as I kind of model with my story. What are some modes of resilience that you've created to kind of met that concept of how you can still center your joy? So we wish you well in these conversations. We open you up to think about how you can listen and hear other stories and see if there are connections between yours and theirs, and see if there are aha moments and things that you can learn from one another. We might actually pop into a few groups to just listen in as well. So we'll give you about 20 minutes to do this.
Yes.
And after, if folks feel like sharing, we'll open the space to do that as well.
Enjoy.
Fantastic, fantastic. Ooh, if anybody's room was like my room, you are feeling healed, you are feeling open and well. How are things for you, Jacob?
They're good. They're good. Yeah. The thing that I was thinking about right now is, because we are always limited with time, right? There's always that feeling of there's not enough time. And so I feel like it's important to acknowledge that we are just scratching the surface.
That's right.
But that's okay, right? That's okay. And I also think that, as a part of this next, with the 29 minutes that we have left, that we want to lean into emergence. What is the conversation that only this group of humans can have as we share practices and as we create community this afternoon in real time that centers joy as a real way to move forward, I think, as a field. So I think what Erin and I want to do is what's called flocking, and where we sort of pull from different from those rooms. And we know that this is a large virtual room, but to just, for folks, if you are so moved, we want to hear from you. So if you can go off mute and share. And I think what might be helpful is if we do some speaker view, encourage everyone to do speaker view. So then that person who does share with us some of their practices of how they center joy in their work, I think that might be a great way to do this. Erin, am I leaving anything out for this next section?
No, I think you covered it, and also, feel as open to share feelings, in this moment, and complications as well. As we've talked about, joy is a holistic practice, right? So yeah, we'll lean into listening to you all.
I can jump in and say something real quick. I shared at the beginning of my breakout group that I've done workshops like this before, and it's so interesting to me because one of the things that I miss very much during this time is the collective human experience that one can find in a theater. And where I am today in my journey and in my life, I immediately was just like, oh man, now I have to talk about joy. I don't know if I can do it today. I don't know if my spirit will let me do it today. I don't know if I have anything to contribute, but let me sign on anyways. And so I started, that was like the first thing I said in my breakout group was like, I don't know if I can find the joy today. I don't know if I can, do this today, just based on what I'm going through in my life. But by the end of it, I did feel much lighter because I think it is something that it's the closest that we can get right now is sharing our truths and sharing our experiences and being upfront about what it is we're experiencing and going through. And that is one of the things that actually does bring me joy is, and I shared this in the group as well, is I think that there's a certain threshold of politeness or I don't know, behavior that's like gone. It's gone now. It's what are you going through? What are you thinking? Talking about money, talking about like unemployment. What does the world look like? What does employment look like? How are you feeling about it? And just being upfront and blunt about it, not being polite about it, not sugarcoating it. I think that's something that we have in this space and in this time. And I'm grateful for that because through that, I've learned a lot. And I have also aligned with people that are going through something similar to my own journey. Thanks for the compliment on my glasses. I love these glasses too.
I echo that compliment.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that. Beautiful. What else, my friends? Our practice of centering joy.
I can share.
Yes, please.
All right. I just want to thank the group. I experienced in the group real joy in the breakout session. I felt a heart connection that was very honest and it felt very real. And I think for me, one expression of joy is really, really knowing and trusting that there is no right or wrong answer. And I entered into the room thinking, what is joy? I have a bunch of notes, like thinking, and I just had the experience of joy in that breakout session. And I think for me, it's just knowing that there really is no right or wrong answer. Thank you.
That's profound. There's really no right or wrong. That's deep. Thank you so much for that.
I jump in?
Go for it.
Hey friends. Yeah, I had a good moment of joy because I was in a room where we got to just say, oh, fuck you all and your practice of joy. We don't have time for joy. We don't have time for more practices. And it was really nice. It's like the best, best moment I've had in a while because we all agreed that we were all getting pissed off at you two for so graciously talking about joy. So that was great. And yeah, so yeah, thanks friends. So that was joyful to get to like be mad about joy. But then also to talk about just finding joy in the little teensy tiny, like if all you have today is this much joy, like that's okay. That's enough. Like that's all right. That's enough joy. A practice of joy doesn't have to mean you have to come up with a lot of joy. And so that was just, it was very liberating, A, to just say, fuck you, joy. And B, to be able to just, we all agreed, like, if it's only this much joy, that's okay. That's enough joy for today. So thanks.
Yes, thank you for that vulnerability and that honesty.
That's so important.
We could put that also on the t-shirt, right? When we say like, throw glitter, not shade. It's like, fuck you, joy. Like that could also be, thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you for that, Larissa. Honesty. We're going to model honesty, friends, in this Zoom room this afternoon. Thank you for that. What else?
I had actually one to add to that. Thank you so much, Laura. In my group, which was so divine, one of the sisters spoke about, like, at times, and I felt it, we might not, as you were saying, have joy, right? We might not be able to muster anything, but if a friend of mine, if my mama, if my cousin has some, then I have to have some. You know, I also think about the temporariness of happiness and the everlasting capabilities of joy, that even if, as you said, I want to be mad at it, it's still gonna be there whenever I want to tap back into it. And so I feel like I at times feel held in joy even when I cannot take it in. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Thank you, Erin.
Any other things emerging?
I took notes for our group, and I could, and I was with a delightful room full of wonderful people with phenomenal energy, and many of the things that we came up with as a room are echoing the things that we're hearing here, and we really recognize, that connection and community were the things that brought us the most joy. And just to echo what you were saying, we even circled around to realize that even in this time of not being connected, we joked that, drinking wine is usually a communal activity, and now it's kind of a thing you do by yourself, but that it is also communal because we are all in this together and we're all experiencing this together. And then knowing that brings us back into that sense of safety and connection and community. And the other thing that I really wanted to celebrate that one of my colleagues spoke about was the idea of letting go, and that letting go is an act of joy. And that really led us to talking about freedom being something that empowers you to let go. Safety is something that empowers you to let go, that we're able to nourish ourselves and break bread with one another when we trust one another. And so that notion of freedom and letting go as the result of these connections, it was just really beautiful to see how every comment circled back to the whole.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. What else? I know there's a lot of wisdom in this Zoom room. 144 people who are here.
I want to jump in. Oh, no, go ahead. Oh, I wanted to add that the joy of having this space to celebrate joy, to connect to joy. In our room, there was this sense of, in professional spaces, we don't always get to share our joy, and to be able to have that within this and centering it just felt exciting and vibrant and new in a way that we hadn't felt. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that
Loving the music in the background.
Yeah, I think that was part of the intention in terms of the planning for this fall forum, just so everyone has that context, that we felt like just given the state of the world, given the state of our field, we keep talking about how we're in the middle of this reckoning, and that we can't go back to the way things used to be, that we have to reimagine and conjure a more just and equitable American theater. And full disclosure, I said we have to be able to talk about joy, because in this work is really difficult. Yes, this work is hard work and it's heart work, but I think when we can actually center joy in a real way and make it a real practice, and I hear what you're saying, Larissa, there are times where I don't feel joy at all, but it actually, as I said earlier, it really is, it can be a superpower that in leadership, at least for me, feelings matter, joy matters. Joy can be an instrument to transform our institutions and our communities. So that's the piece that feels, that's why this plenary session, I'm grateful for it. So thank you, Yana, and thank you, Larissa. Yeah. What else, friends?
I'd love to jump on. Oh no, go ahead. I can't.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I can't see who else was trying to speak. So I'll just say quickly, I just thinking about what you're all saying, I just hear so much in these rooms of people who are trying so hard to support others and feeling like we don't deserve joy if we can't give it to everyone that we're trying to support in different ways, professionally, personally, all of it. And I've needed that reminder. And so I just want to thank you, Jacob, for suggesting this, Erin and Jacob for this amazing session, TCG for this, because I needed this reminder. Just the title, I was like, oh, there's okay, joy, you know, and in that, just a practice. And thank you for centering practice that I just want to offer is I feel so guilty sometimes wanting to do the things, the practices that I need, with something as basic as I need to get out while there's sun. I need to get outside while there is sun. And that's harder on the shorter days because it's all work time, right? And so how can we support each other? Because I still sometimes feel like I've got to make up a reason that's not, I got to walk in the sun. And how do we support each other to actually validate, oh, that's actually a good reason that we need to schedule something in a different way. Of course, we all have to work with each other, but to honor that there should be no apology for doing the practices that we need to survive and thrive and support ourselves and each other. So just offering that to all of us, because I think a lot of us need it.
Yeah, and I'll jump on that because it is connected in some ways. I had a really impactful, beautiful, powerful moment in my group of 3 where one of the members every morning meditates to what I perceived as an altar to the ancestors who came before her and paved the way for her to live the blessed life that she lives. And I was talking about thinking about what Jacob said about joy as a value and how like I push up against that. There's so many parts of who I am that I'm trying to figure out how to really own that and believe that in the whole pleasure activism movement. And thinking that the work of my ancestors and the choices that they made so that I could live the blessed life, the best way I can honor them is to have joy as a purpose in my life, that they would be so thrilled that the choices that they made resulted in me living a joyful life. And that I'm taking that away hugely from the breakthrough group that I was just in. That was a real gift.
Kristen, it's so good to see you. You know, I'm remembering an act of joy we did together, the Women's Leadership Conference, right? In Massachusetts. That's why I'm saying joy is political, because that was a moment we decided intentionally that we would center joy and we would center ourselves. Do you see what I'm saying? We have the choice. So, you know, what I want to throw out in the space is, what are we going to go back to these theaters and do, right? After these furloughs, after this time and space, because right now, as someone beautifully said in my group, we're in a harsh space, but it also has a lot of gifts, right? It's the joy and the pain. It's side by side, right? There, side by side oppression is right there is freedom. Like we're side by side. I feel like, you know, my Alabama upbringing taught me something about that. So when we go back to our spaces, and some of us are still here, will we just labor, right? Will we just like take the status quo? Will we do the same plays we did last time? Will we have the same people on the board we had the last time? Will our theater spaces and the audiences look exactly the same as last time? What will we build? Y'all, we have the remarkable moment right now, and it's a harsh moment at the same time, of space. You know, maybe everybody doesn't have to create an online programming. What if you did nothing? And it's super hard. But what if we let go? What if we let go together? What if one theater said, hey, we're going to fund you because we got some extra so that you can let go? And then the next few months, when you got something extra, we want to fund you so you can let go, so you can recenter your practice of joy, so you can see where your theater is really at, so you can reshift and center. I'll tell you vulnerably, for me, you know, I started a cultural institution here in Atlanta called Soul Center. It centers Black creative thought of young Black folk, 18 to 35. And these kids are amazing, right? But what I found that was so profound, my programming in my first year was so much spent on the cultivation of the Atlanta community. Oh my gosh, all of these people, they're coming in, we're doing all of this work, queer writing rooms and content development spaces, all of this stuff. But y'all, once the COVID hit, it was deep because we couldn't gather anymore. And so then we lost our space, but it was a blessing. Because guess what? After that, I realized that my audience was never just the Atlanta community. My audience were my 4 fellows. And so then Soul Center shifted its mission to really focus on the cultivation of this group of fellows. Our whole business model changed and we allowed it. All I'm saying, like, what are some things in your institutions that have shifted and changed for the better? What are some things that have changed that you want to keep, that you don't want to let go of, you know? And what are some of the things that you know that you've always done that you now have an act of refusal to participate in?
I like to echo that. I think what I was going to say when I was cut off at the end of our session was that I feel like the COVID has been something like a jackhammer in concrete, and it's broken it up where our foundation, and has loosened our foundations so that if we do want to make those changes that you were just talking about, we have a greater ability to do that. We're not now, you know, we're not as stuck as we used to be. And we should make hay while the sun shines.
Can I jump in this vein? I read an article sometime in the last month that I think was either in the Washington Post or the New York Times. I don't remember which, but the author, and I can't remember who that was either, was positing that 2020 is really the start of the 21st century. And what this individual was saying is the world that we knew on March 11 no longer exists. Everything has been turned inside out and upside down. We have all tried out new expressions for our art, things that I think will become enduring. We have learned lessons. So this is a unique moment of change. And I mean, we see it all around us. The topics that we're discussing yesterday and today and tomorrow weren't topics that were uppermost in people's minds on March 11. They are now critical discussion topics. So there's some joy in the ability to participate in this systemic change that's taking place in our world.
Thank you, David, for that. I see Calvin. I see that you raised your hand. Please step in.
Thank you, Jacob. Hi, and hi, Erin. Thank you for creating and curating this space and giving us opportunities to share. One of the things that I think has been for the better in this moment of pause is us having a little bit more grace for people's humanity. The fact that we're facing several pandemics, depending on our orientation to the world, has been extremely difficult. And I've seen a lot more grace extended to employees, to families, to working parents and caretakers that I'd not seen before. And for us to discuss it more openly and with transparency and with care, that has happened now. You know, there's a culture of exhaustion and fear that I feel like is being batted back a little bit as we are all talking about reckoning with this pandemic, civil unrest, social justice, and calls for accountability. And I can't help but think that the reason we have so much attention is because so much has stopped. And the idea of stopping, the idea of going on pause for theater people is almost a foreign concept. You know, we sprint to the tech and the next tech and the next tech, right? And the next creation and the next piece, and the cycle doesn't end. And, you know, I said to my colleagues at the start of this, I think, you know, I was like, maybe once every 100 years, a theater should take a year off and reassess where they are. Would that be such a bad thing for us to reevaluate the mission, our values, our contribution to our communities, and our endless fight for anti-racism? Could we take a year off and do that work? What does it cost? Right? And now that it's being forced on us, I wonder about how we center joy in the work. As we're having these conversations, I talk about what's on the other end of this rainbow, right? As we continue to invest in EDI efforts and training and education, right? Because the shows aren't going up. And Erin, thank you for your offering. Not everyone needs a virtual platform. We weren't built to compete in the global market, actually. And so some of us are trying desperately to do so, but we've got real communities that are here and paused, and thinking about our populations has really been helpful. But again, leading with humans first. So thank you.
Love that. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Oh, so good. Tanya, and then we'll have to start to wrap up, and we have a couple of quotes that we want to share with you. Tanya, take it away.
Hey, so this is awesome. I was a little late, and I met some cool people in my breakthrough, whoever said breakthrough room. All right. I think for us, I'm from Chicago, small but mighty women-focused theater. I think that we've become more mindful during this pandemic, and kind of we pulled ourselves closer, and we care more about each other, more about our community that we serve, and we care more about the art. So I think when we, you know, and I'm the marketing chick, but I'm also very much an artist, but like when we are able to get up, oh my God, the work is gonna just glisten because of having a chance to find joy, you know, through pain and through just being there for each other. Different things happen. People are afraid, oh, I've gotten a positive COVID test or result. We pull it together. We've been pulling together as a group. And I know there's some folks from my company on here. Shout out the love. That's all. Carry on.
Love it. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya. I love Chicago.
We are something else.
Yes.
Erin, my dear Erin, it looks like it is 2:55. We should probably start to wrap up. I'm wondering, I have a couple of quotes that I was thinking we could close out with, but I wonder if you had, I wrote a couple of things down as kind of key takeaways. I wonder if you also have some key reflections as a way to close out that you'd like to share, or I can share.
You share first and then I'll follow up.
Okay, excellent. So I just wrote down three things. The first is the importance of coalition building. So I love the idea of breakthrough rooms. I hope that you will find ways to stay connected to your breakthrough rooms. The power of coalition, the power of community, the power of working in partnership, right? Being on the journey with other folks, fellow travelers is so critical, I think, to having a joy-filled practice. The second is that it's just that, it is a practice. It is a practice day in and day out, especially when you're having to make difficult decisions or when you're not feeling it. And then the third is, how do you actually align yourself with people who hold you accountable to continue centering joy in the work? So those are the three things that are swirling in my mind and heart as we wrap up this session. Erin, what's coming up for you?
So for me, I just put it in chat. One of my favorite artists, thinkers, James Baldwin, said, the purpose of art is to lay bare the questions that have been hidden by the answers. The purpose of art is to lay bare, we in a bare space, The questions, we asking a lot of questions that have been hidden by the answers. The answers are our industry as we know it right now. These things that are huge and built up and look stable. We're destable right now, and it is mighty and it's hard. I hope that you take care of yourselves. I hope that you center yourselves. I hope that the days where, you know, you can't even muster, as Hannah said, that mustard seed of joy. I hope that somebody in your community has it and is meditating with you and praying with you and sending that energy out to you. And I hope that, you know, we really take this session, not just as a session. Like I want to just tell everybody on here, reach out to one person on here today, at the end of the day, and literally check in with them. Ask them how they're doing. And maybe you check in with that person for the next few weeks, just once a week. Hey, how are you doing? No work talk, not a question about a budget. I mean, just throw that all away. Just throw it away. To check in with them as a human being, right? And continue as a collective, as Jacob was saying, to ask the hard questions, right? Because we want to create some different answers 100, 200, 300 years from now. You know, we want to create some different answers. So blessings to you all. Thank you so much.
Erin, thank you. That was so beautiful. I think we just want to close out with just two quotes. The first is from Karina Ingersoll, dear friend. She's the general manager at Steppenwolf. And, you know, when we've been talking about joy, we've also been talking about relationships. And one of the things that Karina said a couple years ago that I always think about is she said, we are leaving a legacy of bricks and mortar, but let us leave a legacy of human capital, right? The idea that we need to center each other and to center our relationships. And then the last, just to close us out, thank you, Corinna, for sharing this. This is from Lori Elizabeth Parquet. And this is what Lori has to say as to close us out, friends. Where joy exists, all things are possible. Where there is joy, there is also freedom, creativity, safety, openness, pleasure, magic, electricity, goosebumps, smiles, warm fuzzies, long hugs, and open hearts. Joy is not just a feeling, it is an act that we are committed to creating and embracing in every word, every room, every show, and in every interaction whenever possible. Lori Elizabeth Parquet. I'm now going to turn it over to Adrian. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jacob and Erin. It's, I mean, how often do we make 2 hours just to talk about joy and actually name what joy looks like and how we practice it? So thank you both for your generous offerings into this space. It was pretty remarkable just to spend time thinking about what brings us joy and happiness, because it's out there. So thank you. Erin, heed Erin's advice, reach out to one another. There's something on Mighty Network called the lobby. Over the next 2 days, it will remain open where you can connect with each other just to check in. So strongly encourage you to hop in, hop out, check in, check out. It will be open from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. We'll also have some TCGers in that space to help answer any questions, etc. But definitely please check in with your colleagues and your friends. We need to make sure this joy keeps us where we are. It's super important to be vulnerable and spend this time together with each other when we can't in person. Erica?
Yes, I was just so pulled into this session that I almost didn't do my job. But today my job was sharing joy with you, and I'm so grateful. We also encourage you all to share any of your thoughts from today's session or some of the notes and reflections on our whiteboard, which I believe Josh is gonna drop into the chat. Alex Meda actually introduced us to Padlet, which we've been using, and it's a super cool tool. It helps us to collect all of our thoughts. It's like a giant lobby whiteboard space, so you can double click on there and share any of your thoughts and ideas. And to Erin's challenge, I want to encourage you all to connect in our Mighty Network. You can message some of the people in your breakthrough rooms there. You can also communicate with other attendees, share your resources, find all of our links, and make sure you get in touch with TCG. We have a theater communications group account on there if you have any questions, or you can message any of us.
Thank you both. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Erin. See you all at 4:15 for our next plenary.